Welcome everyone. Hello, hello. While more folks are trickling in, my name is Izzy. Just to give a little intro of myself, for those who don't know me, I see some familiar names since cameras are off. But I am based in California near San Francisco, and I started my Salesforce journey like basically when COVID started. So yeah, but basically when COVID started, I had hospitality behind as my background for about 10 plus years. Then COVID happened, and like everyone else, I got let go. So I had to switch gears. And at the time, Hilton was actually that's what I was working at was switching CRM systems to Salesforce. So they kind of dubbed me as the admin because I was more tech savvy. And then when I was let go, I basically wanted to keep learning about the system. And then I achieved my certification. And since then, my all the opportunities started expanding. So right now I am currently a Salesforce admin at a corporate bank here in San Francisco. And then I'm also a guru here at SaaS Guru, where I mentor the admin boot camp as well as the job readiness boot camp. So I also give my tips and tricks in terms of, getting prepared for technical interviews or how to demonstrate your skills on LinkedIn, because nowadays I feel like LinkedIn is like the best way to get a job. My last four jobs was through LinkedIn, to be honest, and it was all Salesforce admin roles. So, and then, yeah, so today I'm here to just kind of expand my knowledge on profiles because I know profiles can be a little bit tricky or kind of hard to understand. And then I'm a visual learner, so I learn best by getting more hands-on practice, in which that is today's topic. So let's just get started, shall we? And since if you don't know me, I kind of have a little presentation ready for you. So in today's agenda, just do a little introduction, what is kind of needed. I'll talk a little about technical interviews and more so like demo technical interviews. And then we'll get practicing in the SaaS Guru lab. And then at the end, after our lab is done, we'll just wrap up with any questions as well as a survey. So you can let me know, like, if I need to show more examples or explain more things more clearly. That would greatly help me as a mentor and a guru just to, we're all learning, we're all advancing our professional development. So that would help me greatly. So if you're new here, basically these live classes, this is, a benefit for yourself, actually. One, it's free, it's a free webinar. So why not learn, why not get anything free, right? Free is good. You are also exploring more real world scenario topics. So before we get started, there are a couple of resources for learning, and I know all of you are probably familiar with with these three. Now, there's always a confusion between the first two. So Salesforce offers like Trailhead Playgrounds and then something called like Developer Editions. So basically, the difference is with Trailhead Playgrounds, think of it like how it says it's a playground. It's like a sandbox. So you're essentially just playing around in it, like testing little exercises based on Trailhead modules, just to understand what you're reading, the concepts, just like mini like learning modules, right? And then there's something called developer editions, which essentially has more features than Trailhead Playgrounds. And essentially, it's supposed to be more of a permanent, like long-term practice environment that's more in line with what businesses use today. So there are some limitations between the two. So developer editions actually have more features that you can utilize. You can test things out. The only thing is it's not a big replica of your production. So it's okay to make mistakes, basically. It's not going to affect your real live production org. So that's like the two. Like I would say Trailhead is kind of like a short term like environment playground where you're just kind of testing out what you learn in Trailhead. Whereas developer editions, you kind of use that as like a long term, like creating big projects, implementing apps from App Exchange. They have a little bit more storage than Trailhead Playground, so that's kind of also why. Sometimes smaller organizations that don't have the big two editions like enterprise or oh my god, why can't I remember? Is it professional? I wanted to say that. So the last two ones that cost a lot of money, they basically don't. They have their own sandbox included in their edition, whereas the smaller two, like essentials, and then oh my God, I'm drawing a blank, but the second one is they don't have a sandbox. So typically they would use a developer edition if they wanted to test things out for their organization. I would know because my first job was at a nonprofit organization. They bought the essentials edition and you didn't come with the sandbox. So I had to download a developer edition and basically test things out from there. If it worked, then I would build it in production in that nonprofit org. And then, of course, we have our Sales SaaS Guru hands-on labs where we created our own like scenario-based hands-on exercises just to get more practice within the org. This has been like a highly request item. And I agree. Like I basically always encourage to build in the app or build in Salesforce. Think of something of your interest. If you're following me on LinkedIn, I'm like doing this sandwich app to build and everything. So, because, who doesn't like food? So that's basically what we're going to do is navigate and practice with SaaS Gurus Labs. So, why is that important to keep practicing in org? Well, since I just mentioned, I also mentor at SaaS Guru for job readiness. So nowadays, there are the interview process is like 3 rounds. The first round is typically like behavioral type questions where they ask you situation-based interview questions. The second round is like the technical round. So you might have to either receive a case study, an assignment to do for that particular interview, or you might have to explain it on the spot. And I actually had one where it was on the spot. They had me to share my screen. I had to explain reports and dashboards. And at the time, that was like my weakest topic to know. So it's good to practice at least the basics of Salesforce and how you can demonstrate it. Why? Because in the real world, you're going to be working with end users or customers or, you know, whoever your CEOs, your stakeholders who do not know Salesforce. So it's great to basically, if you understand it yourself, you're capable of explaining it to like a non-technical person, right? And I always tell like my entire tech team, like, talk to me like I'm a third grader, and basically to explain it in layman's terms. So if you're capable of explaining things in Salesforce to someone without using like all Salesforce jargon and using analogies and telling some kind of story, this will really help you practice within technical interviews. And so sometimes with these, if you have a take home like case study assignment for these interviews, you can't, you have to practice like how you're going to demonstrate this. Like, so I always try to create some kind of story, like who's the user, what's their use case for it, what's the purpose of them like clicking certain buttons or navigating to certain areas in Salesforce. So these labs that we provided from SaaS Guru we also provide like some kind of story, and maybe you can use that for your interview or kind of use that as a guide of how to explain things in Salesforce. Does that make sense? And then as you notice here on my slide, I say something called the STAR method. So for those who don't know about interviewing, the best way to respond in interviews is called the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, and result. So you give the interviewer a scenario. What are the tasks that are needed for this scenario? What are the actions that you are taking to like resolve this scenario? And then what resulted from it? So for example, like if today's topic is profiles, I would kind of give an example of like the different types of profiles, who's going to access it, the kind of the why certain users can't see certain data, and then what result is like the data is secured. There's no like security breach or anything like that. So this takes a lot of practice in terms of nowadays with the job market. It's good to at least prepare yourself to know how to demo at least the Salesforce fundamentals, right? But before we get started, let's do a little knowledge check with profiles. I know there's some students here of mine here. I love analogies. So for those who don't know, one of my examples for profiles is driver's licenses. So in comparison to Salesforce profiles, with driver's license, you have your regular driver's license, you have your motorcycle driver's license, and then you have like those big rigs, big trucks. Now, each of those licenses basically give you access to the roads, and each one have a different, different levels of what you can do on that road. Drive like regular compact cars can drive regular on the highway. Motorcycles have to like, can't go well here in the US, some in the States you can't drive in between cars. And then of course the big rigs, because they're so heavy, some of the roads are not valid. Valid. They're not available for them because they're so heavy. They have to take a different route. Otherwise, they'll break the road itself. So just think of like profiles. If you give them to your end users or who are just onboarding, they all will probably have different access in your company, right? And I would think of it like departments, like so I mentioned I work at a bank, so we have different departments in the bank, obviously, from wealth managers to associates to like the tech team to HR, and then of course our customers. So we all have different access to the bank system. Otherwise, it would be really bad for everyone to have access to each other's bank accounts, right? Um, Another analogy I like to say is for those who watch Netflix, think about that. Think about the profiles you create for Netflix. You have the kids' profiles where they can only see all the kid shows, and then of course you have your regular plans where you can watch all shows together. So essentially, that's different access for watching those shows on Netflix. So that's basically what profiles are, right? Um, and I know there's some moms in here or moms and dads, so I'm sure that you probably have some parental controls on some of your kids' like, um, Netflix accounts or anything if they have any, right? So hopefully that kind of gives you a grasp of what profiles are in Salesforce. Is basically you're just giving access and visibility to your different users, right? All right, now let's begin. So let's everyone go ahead and open up your developer org that is connected to the SaaS Guru app. And then we're going to navigate to the app and select the profiles, interview prep scenario profiles labs in SaaS Guru. So let me go ahead and just show where that is. Okay, so here I am in SaaS Guru. So actually, let me just start from the home page just to navigate for those who are still uh, navigating. Up on the top, there's like Explore Library, and you'll see Hands-on Labs. So go ahead and select that. And I typically will just search for it. So just look up profiles. And it's called Salesforce Interview Prep Scenario Profiles. I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now, if you don't have Well, if there's an orange button on top here that says enroll now, I would enroll now so that you have access to this exercise, and then you can follow along as we build this in our org. So if you haven't already or you're new to it, once you get your developer edition, you can sign up with this link here. You do have to do some prerequisites in order for this to connect and validate with your org and our SaaS Guru app. So just make sure that this is enabled in that org. And then this is the org. Your org should be connected and what you should be building in. Similar to your Trailhead, but this is our version of it, basically. All right, so our use case is managing front desk agents and guest service permissions at Hilton hotels and resorts. Well, this is kind of an example. You can explain a common interview question would be, what are profiles and roles, for example? And so a great way to explain this is you can use this example. So we're basically we're going to manage the front desk agents and their access for their CRM system, their Salesforce. 100%. And so we're going to kind of control what they have access to in Salesforce, because obviously you don't want your front desk agents to have the full access in the hotel CRM. So we do need to kind of switch things on and off for them so that they are only responsible for the certain records or any access that they have. Okay. So for the front desk agents, they basically have customer account access. So this will have them have the capability to access and manage all guest accounts. Similar, and then next we have the case access. I should just highlight where I am. So this case access, so if one of the guests, complains about the air conditioning not working, the TV not working, then the front desk agent can basically create that ticket and send it off to like the maintenance team, for example. Then of course we have customer deals access. Now, when I say deals, what object am I talking about? Opportunity. So deals, this is essentially for the sales reps of the hotel and pretty much the sales reps for most of the businesses that use opportunities. You want to obviously get revenue from customers because that pays for your employees' checks, the rent of the building, the water, the bill, the electricity. And so these deals are the ones that you're trying to sell to customers, get revenues. So in the case of Hilton hotels or hotels in general, that could be the rooms that, all the rooms are opportunities. Like sometimes weddings like to book like a block of rooms. So they book like 10 rooms for their wedding event for their guests. And that's revenue right there. So that's an opportunity for the hotel to gain for their P&L, their profit and loss statement, basically. And since I talked about weddings, that's also another opportunity. So again, I worked at hotels for 10 plus years. So I was an event manager, so to speak. And so that would be my opportunity, was like all the events that I did, the weddings, the business meetings, as well as like room blocks. So for that would be all my opportunity records. And you want to keep track of that because if someone's giving you like $1 million of revenue, you want to make them happy, right? You want to make sure that this whole relationship is happy from start to finish. And that's why it's called a customer relationship management system, right? And so this is probably the biggest one to manage, is like making sure the money's coming into your company. Then, of course, you want to have the front desk create some reports. This is probably the biggest thing all companies want to see, is just to track the progress of pretty much anything you can do in Salesforce, from your tasks to all the opportunities, like how much revenue you made that month, maybe lost customers, maybe the new customers. So there's a lot you can do with reports. And so this would help for front desk. In their sense, it would be like service requests, or maybe they'll generate a report of like who's checking in today kind of deal. So that's like a use case of how front desk would use reports. And then the weekly data export will go hand in hand with that. So they can just export like all the data for the week in that sense. And that way they have it prepared and they're ready to go. And they can maybe like block rooms if necessary, if like they see like a huge traffic coming in, foot traffic, I meant. So that's always good to always plan ahead. When I say planning ahead, does anyone know what Salesforce term I'm talking about when we plan ahead business? Starts with an F. I don't know if I'm asking this question correctly. Forecast, thank you. So forecast is basically that you businesses like to forecast for futures, and meaning it's like you need to prepare for everything. Sometimes there's things out of your control that can really affect your business. Example, I live in California. We get big fires here. So when I was working at the hotel, we're close by them, like where the fires happen, and pretty much we lost so much revenue that month because we had to evacuate that area, and obviously all the guests had to leave, and we lost money on that. So it's always good to plan. So since we lost money that with that year, we forecast the next year, okay, well, we need to make up for that lost profit. And basically all the sales rep had to just really hone in on selling the hotel to make up for that profit. So these reports are good for forecasting and preparing your business for any type of thing, market trends, knowing what you did last year, how you can do better this year, how much money you can make. Maybe you can promote other employees. Maybe you can raise salaries and stuff like that, or get more features for your employees. So it's always good to do some reporting on that sense. And then public list views is you can look at a list of records, and front desk are able to see like all these lists to help them, navigate all the records. All right. So enough talking, Izzy. Let's get doing. So we're going to do this part of front desk agents, and then we'll talk about guest services next. So let's go ahead and open up the first task. It's going to be create a custom profile for desk agents. So we are going to clone a existing profile from standard user. It's best practice, modify. You can't modify standard profiles. Salesforce is pretty much, they have the capability to update those profiles if they wanted to. So if you don't want Salesforce to basically modify that, you kind of create custom profiles. That is why sometimes when you click on these standard profiles, you're basically not able to edit anything, really. There's a couple things you need to edit, but that's it pretty much. So we're going to clone this standard user profile and then create one for front desk agents. So here I have my org open. I am in the setup side of my org. And in the home tab under quick find, I am going to search for profiles. And go ahead and select profiles. And I'm going to navigate to this alphabet over here and click on S for standard user. So you'll see standard user here. And then you'll see the word clone. So let's go ahead and clone that profile. So it's going to ask you to, what's the name? Now, when you're doing labs in SaaS Guru, it's always best to copy and paste exactly what's here, just because similar to Trailhead, it can be particular in terms of spelling, spacing, grammar, etc. And actually that is good best practice to do that in the real world. You don't want to have like abbreviations everywhere. So this is called Front Desk Agent. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So now we are in the profile. Now, for some of you, I feel like I know, if you don't have this view, you have the enhanced view. Go ahead and change that back to this old view. It will probably be easiest can manage the permission. All right, so let's go ahead. So here, this is where you manage your profile for the user, and you can manage like what their page layouts are, just to navigate you a little bit. You can change up their field level security. So can they view some fields? Can they edit some fields? Is it hidden? This is like the app, the custom app. So if you created custom apps, this would be here, and what if they have access to it. Apps would be here in your app launcher. So are they able to click on here and see that app? Your tab settings. Your tab settings here, like do they see the tabs in the org? Is it on, off, hidden? And then your record types, if you have record types for some objects, this is where you can manage that in the profile. And then we're actually gonna manage this in our next lab portion of today. So admin permissions. So these are, you need certain permissions to like do certain features or for some users. So most of the time when you see the word manage, it's kind of giving them like the admin access. So like you're giving them like full access to whatever it says. So like manage public list views would be like everyone's list views in that sense. Um, and then lastly, same thing. These are like what the user itself, so more permissions. If you're studying for the admin exam, you don't need to memorize all of them, but there are a couple that you do need to be familiar with. All right, so I'm going to select edit on top. And here in SaaS Guru, there is a description called custom profile for front desk agents. I'm going to put that in the description. Oh, thank you for the assist, y'all. Yes, so clone the profile because you can't modify standard profile. And we're calling it front desk agent. It's also here in SaaS Guru. It's like the first step. Too. So now we're just going to manage these three objects: account, case, opportunity. So first one is going to be account for read, create, edit, and view all. So I'm actually going to scroll down to object settings, like so, standard object permissions. So accounts here is read, create, edit, remove, delete, and then view all. Double checking, read, create, edit, view all. So give a minute. Accounts is read, create, edit, and view all. Okay. Case is read, create, edit, and view all also. So look for case. Read, create, edit, and then view all. So this is cases. And then last but not least, what do we have here? Opportunity is just read and view all. Opportunities is on the right side. So you're just going to deselect. And then they're going to have a pop-up here. It's kind of just a warning like, hey, just letting you know if you deselect this, this will happen. Go ahead and deselect that. And then view all, right? Read and view all for opportunities. All right, now administrative settings, we're going to just double check if these three are checked off. So create and customize reports. So I think if you scroll up, it's under administrative settings or administrative permissions. So they're in alphabetical order. Now I just completely forgot. Create and customize reports. This is already checked for me. So this enables this profile to create and customize reports in Salesforce, which we want for our front desk. The weekly data export. So it's probably the last one here. CD, yep. weekly data export. So this enables them to access this via the setup side. And I'm going to showcase when we enable these permissions, but basically, yeah, this will enable them to do some weekly export on their data if necessary. And then the last one is manage public list views. So probably here, manage public list views. So basically, you know, even if they don't have like the sharing access to it, but because we check this off, we're kind of giving them like admin access to just, they can manage it regardless in that sense. And that's it for this one. So go ahead and scroll back up and just save this profile. Ta-da. Now, if you want, we can go ahead and validate here on SaaS Guru just to make sure step 1 is cleared. So if you scroll a little bit down after step 3 and just select, it should say validate. Mine says revalidate because I did this exercise multiple times. But you will see it is turned green. So the second part, we're going to create another custom profile for guest services. So guest services is also another name for concierge. So they're the ones who are helping, you know, the wine itineraries or any type of itineraries, flights, calling a cab or anything like that. So we are basically going to do that. So same thing, we're going to clone the standard user and make sure that's the standard user. So navigate to your setup again. And then if you're not type in profiles. Let me X out these boxes. And then navigate to the letter S for standard user and clone the standard user. Okay. We're going to call this guest services. Copy and paste. Like so. Okay. Guest services. Select save. So same thing, but this time they don't have like these type of permissions. We're just going to update their object settings. So account read is count object is read and view all. So navigate to object settings. I'm like, where am I? Oops. Well, make sure you select edit. Don't pull an Izzy. Select edit so you can edit these permissions. And scroll to object settings. Here you go. Accounts should just be read. So uncheck, create, edit, delete, and then as well, it should be view all. So read and view all. Cases will be just read. So count as read and view all. Navigate to cases. And it's just read. So uncheck these two boxes. So it's just read. Now what's the last one? And opportunities would be read and view all. Opportunities is on the right side. So I'm going to uncheck these boxes. You're going to get a warning box here probably. So just select OK. And then view all. So read and view all for opportunities. All right. So go ahead and save this profile and then go ahead and check, validate this step. Revalidate for me. Oops, did I not save this? Hold on. What's happening here? Oh no, troubleshoot, troubleshoot. The time. Causing an error, did not put the description. Real time, troubleshoot. There you go. Attention to detail is not my forte. There you go. And green. Ta-da! See what I mean? Make sure you're copying and pasting everything. All right, and then last but not least, we have to create our front desk agent. His name is John Dean. Now, this lab in particular is checking this SGL underscore alias, as well as this nickname JD1. So make sure this is filled in. So first things first, I'm going to navigate in my home tab, users. And we're going to select new user. Okay. First name is going to be John. Last name is going to be Dean. So John Dean. SGL, I am just going to put it, I'm sure everyone's getting a lot of JDs. So I'm just going to put JD1 and then put the SGL at the end, like so. Actually, I'm just going to just paste that in there. Hold on. Jane Dean. I'm not copying and pasting this. Nice. So, okay. The email has to be your real email. So that way you can generate a password or verify their account. And then what format does the username have to be? Knowledge check. No guesses? What format does username have to be? Email format. I think this what gets a lot of people confused with email. But yes, Salesforce likes to have their usernames as email format. So it doesn't need to be a legit email. It can be a fake one as long as it's email format, like at something.com, .org, .co, etc. Now, best practice when you're practicing in Trailhead or in DevOrgs for, just studying, I like to create usernames based on what I'm studying. So like I will put like jdean at labssasguru.com. So that way I know that this org is particular to that topic if you're creating a bunch of them for studying purposes. That's my tip for you. Now the nickname is what's checking. So make sure the nickname is JD1. So you can erase this whole user and a bunch of numbers and just type in JD1. The role can be any role. And then we're going to assign that front desk profile and do some checkboxes. So I'm just going to leave the role as non-specified, but the profile is you can put your front desk agents. Active should be checked. And then flow user should be checked. Ta-da! Give a second so folks can catch up. So go ahead and select save and go ahead and verify. Cross fingers. Always like a lottery game when you're doing these validations. Woohoo! Okay. So I am going to then navigate to our last segment of this lab. So I'm going to minimize. Can I minimize you? Yeah, it's minimized. This one is the manage tech engineer permissions at Airbnb. So the whole use case is we have a tech engineer managing like basically reports and dashboards for Airbnb. For those who don't know what Airbnb is, it's basically where you can rent other people's places. Okay. So manage tech engineer. So we're just going to manage just the permissions for this particular profile. And they're just creating a bunch of reports in that sense for Airbnb. So I'm going to try to just explain. It's just one to two steps. So for step 2, we're going to actually use our existing John Dean user. We're just going to change the nickname to JD2. And don't worry, since you completed the first step, it should not affect the first step. It should just only validate this second step. Okay. So we're going to clone the standard user. So navigating back to the setup side. And in quick find, you're going to type in profiles, right? Then I'm going to select the S in the alphabet here. And make sure you're cloning standard user, not the other two around it. So clone standard user. This one's called tech engineer. So copy and paste exactly how it says in SaaS Guru. Mute everything and then save. Gonna edit and then see now I'm gonna remember the description this time. So put the description of custom profile for tech engineer. Now, since this is just admin permissions, and I'm gonna go down this big list here. Okay, so the best way I would do this is I'm actually going to have this on the left side of me. Cool. I like to do, we're here in permissions. I like to do Control F. I'm a Windows gal, so Control Find basically. So I'm assuming Mac folks are what? Command F? But yeah, I'm gonna Control F so that way, first one, I'm gonna find manage users so that it finds it on this list. I could just, so Command Find, Command F for Mac. I'm going to check manage users. There's a bunch that you see automatically checked for when you check manage users. So this will enable this engineer to create new users in Salesforce. The next one is reset user passwords. So that's already checked for me, but basically you are letting this user reset users passwords and unlock users if they're frozen or, locked, I meant. So that's what that permission does. The next one is view all users. So that one's already checked, as you can see here. This enables this profile to view all users in the user setup side. View all data, like that. So this will enable them to view standard and custom objects and such. They can view all. Next one is create and customize reports. So that one's already checked for me. So that basically, hopefully no one has a Mac. So that would help them create and customize reports. Some of these are kind of like self-explanatory, I would feel, right? Next is manage report. Next one is manage reporting snapshot. So Wait a minute. I can't spell now. Reporting. There you go. Check that. You can pretty much kind of give like a highlight snapshot of like your like top accounts or top opportunities. So that's essentially what that is. Um, create report folders is the next one. That's already checked for me. That's obviously to create report folders. Edit my reports. That's checked. Can give them the ability to edit my report. Oh, wow. And then Sasku just fix. So report builder, there are two permissions. So there's report builder in under general user permissions. So that's essentially enabling them to, build reports. And then we have report builder in parentheses, lightning experience. So report builder, because it used to be Salesforce Classic. This one is you're enabling them to build reports in the Lightning framework. But you do need to have both of those checked for them to have access to create reports, right? Schedule reports. So that needs to be checked. So you can schedule reports to be sent out in line with subscribe reports. Oh, I can't spell. Subscribe. Am I not spelling that? Oh, subscribe to reports. So that's checked. Next is manage custom reports. Make sure that's checked. So you're able to, all the custom reports that are built, they're giving this tech engineer to manage it. Next one is manage dashboards in public folders. So any dashboards that's in a public folder, they are capable of managing that. But in order to do that, you got to make sure create and customize dashboards is also enabled. Am I not typing it? Create and customize dashboards. That was weird. Almost there, guys. We have create dashboard folders. So I think that's here. Just gonna type it here. Dashboards. Folders. Make sure that's checked. Edit my dashboards. So look for edit. There's edit my dashboards right here. So you're giving them permission to edit their dashboards. Subscribe to dashboards. That one needs to be checked. So you're letting them subscribe, meaning they can, depending on the time frequency that they choose, they can have this dashboard sent to their email like weekly, like every Friday at 8 a.m. or something like that. Few more. Manage all private reports and dashboards. That one right there. And then dynamic dashboards, manage dynamic dashboards. So they can manage the dashboards if you change that access. Dynamic is like you can view other, like, so let's say you have a sales team, you can switch to dashboard viewing their perspective, kind of like seeing like what their records are, what they own and all of that without having to share or anything. It's like their view. Import leads. They can import Excel. Basically, that's what that's enabling. Same with import custom objects. So the data import. Last few here, export reports, ability to export reports. weekly data export. You check that off. And last but not least, we gotta manage public list views. Whew, what a list. All right. I'm gonna select save and validate. Who got this big list validated? Put a fire sign following Marie's. Nice job, Marie. Oh no, I did I miss one? I'm gonna go ahead and select save. So now it should validate for me. Validate. Yay. So this one, attention to detail. You really need to make sure you're checking off. So if you're getting an error, double check you are selecting all of this under this profile. That's probably your error. You're missing one of them. But as you saw me troubleshoot, you can tell it tells you which one you're missing. So that's a good sense. And then last but not least, so that because we only have 10 minutes, you're just going to update that user, John Dean. We're just changing the nickname to JD2. So I am going to navigate to users. And edit John Dean and just change the nickname to 2 and then change the profile to tech engineer. So again, edit John Dean, the user. You're going to change the nickname JD2 and then change the profile that we just checked off that big list for tech engineer and select save because I already did this. I'm going to do 1, save, and then validate. And that's it. Ta-da! We finished profiles. Now, just to quickly show you how, now I'm just going to showcase like how profiles work in Salesforce. Just showcase, it's not an exercise, but typically for anyone that's new here, when you get like a new system in that sense, you Salesforce, like all the data is kind of open to everyone, all users. So typically when companies buy Salesforce, they first decide, okay, who has what access in terms of profiles, right? So I went ahead and kind of created these scenarios in that sense, just to show you how these profiles work. Now you notice, example, so I'm going to go to users here. And just show you, if it lets me, I have John Dean here, and I'm going to actually just show you what it looks like for him as a standard user. So it's the standard profile that is not the one that we customize, right? And I'm going to log in as John. Now, if you want to learn how to log in like how I am, join one of our boot camps and we'll teach you how. So I'm going to log in as John Dean. You'll see there on top, I am John Dean. You'll notice that on accounts, see I have, let's do Hilton. I did the Hilton hotels. So I have accounts here. Notice that with the account, he's only seeing the ones that he owns, which is James Smith and John Doe. Owning meaning he created it himself in Salesforce. So in order to, we updated that with front desk agents. So I'm going to log out as him. And I'm just going to just do the front desk agent as an example, just for time's sake. But I'm going to edit his user record. and change that to front desk agent. Now remember, when we did front desk agents, we enabled him to view all things on accounts, was it cases, and then read and view all on opportunities. So if I select save for front desk agents for John Dean, I'm going to log in as him. And you'll notice there's more accounts that's visible because we gave him view all access to accounts. We gave him view all access to cases. So notice, because case owner is essentially me, like the admin, but him is not here. So he didn't create any cases. But that's the idea. If he was the front desk agent, the guest would come in and they'll be like, hi, I am so-and-so. I'm like John Doe. I'm here to check in. So as John Dean, I would go to Salesforce. I'll look him up under account and be like, oh, well, welcome here. Thank you for coming to Hilton Hotels. I see that you are here checking in, like to look at the details of the record. Well, normally it should be a contact object, but for this case, it's account. And then let's say it's just John Doe, like called down and said, oh, the air conditioning's not working. So as John Dean, I would submit a case to my maintenance team and say, room 102 is not working, please fix, right? So they'll create a new case. And then let's say someone comes in and it was like, I would like to book a block of rooms for my wedding. Perfect, that's a deal. The front desk agent can, well, we'll probably send it to the sales rep. But notice we only put read and what was the other one? Just read and something else? View all. So notice I can click onto the one that my other team member created, right? If I select details, I'm only able to read it. There's no pencil icons. I can't edit it because we only gave the access of viewing all. See how that works? Now, so that's how security works, starting with profiles and permission sets in that sense. And that is it for this live webinar. So thank you, everyone.